it seems like a lot of Asians that I know are not out, mostly to their families. Um, yeah, I find that they have a tremendous difficulty in coming uh, out to their families, or they never do in many cases. Um, my partner's not out with his family, and he's in his mid 30s, and I think some of his family knows about this through just deduction, and putting two and two together, but there's no discussion, there's no talk about it. Um, with me, as a Caucasian, I just blurted it right out to my family when I was in my early 20s, and I just laid my cards on the table, and this is who I am, and you either have to accept me or reject your son.
I think when the Caucasian sort of is in the relationship and they may be out to their parents or something, they can't sort of impose that upon the Asian part of the relationship, because I mean there's a lot of dynamics at work here. I mean there's a lot more pressure to get married, a lot more pressure to have children, a lot more pressure to have sons, that type of thing. And I mean it's a lot. It's a lot, and people don't see it because they may not be an external pressure, but it's all these underlying pressures. So, if you're in a relationship and the Caucasian's out to the family and the Chinese or the Asian person is not, I don't think you can really impose that person to come out and say, hey, this is my lover and we are together and you're going to have to accept it or else, because you have all those connections and bonds with your family.
I think I would go back and forth on whether he should come out or not. I only wanted him to do so if he wanted to do it.
Yeah, he was very understandable that he wouldn't push me, but he said, whenever you feel like it's the right time, it's the right time, then you should do it.
And I felt like especially as Jonathan's career progressed, and mine did, we became more independent, financially independent, and more comfortable with each other. I felt like there's a certain strength there that if Jonathan had to do without his family emotionally, financially, whatever, he could.
Because the families are so tight-knit and local, but my boyfriend at the time wasn't out to the family, that I was never included in any family events. I was like this other compartment of his life.
Yeah, and quite a few, was it a Christmas party that your mom had?
Yeah, it was a Christmas party that my mom
like 4
had.
years ago, it was a long time ago.
Yeah, she had a party and she invited.
She invited the roommate. but since I stopped being the roommate, I've not been invited back. So.
The biggest difference by far is in the method of communication. And this is borne out to me almost on a daily basis in my own relationship. It gets really bad sometimes. I'm very direct. I was raised to be direct, say what I wanted, express myself. Yuho was raised to avoid confrontation, to leave a way so that you and the person you were having this disagreement with or this communication problem with, so that there was a way out so that you could save face. And I'm like, well, that's really stupid. and he gets so offended by this because I'm being derogatory. I'm not allowing him to save face. And so it becomes a matter of negotiation. So the communication gap is a big one.
I think Asians are less direct. I know I am. My boyfriends tended to be more direct and blunt. I think it's a cultural thing, really. Or at least I can speak for Japanese culture, just for myself. We always felt like you had to fit in and it was go with the flow kind of thing, and you don't complain, and even if something bothers you, you tend to try to play it down kind of thing. Whereas in America, it's more the individual. And, so people are more direct. They'll speak their mind. Whereas growing up as an Asian, in Hawaii, I tended not to speak my mind that much, I guess. But having lived in Japan, I can see why it was necessary in that culture in terms of, you've got the population of half the United States living in a country as big as California. And if everyone's speaking their mind and they're like this close to each other, everybody's going to be fighting with each other.
I've found a lot of Asian men very stubborn, so that if there's a point to be made, it may not be made so clearly the first time, but it gets made over time. Maybe not quite so clearly and just in terms of words, it's true. My experience would support that. And it has been a source of conflict in some of my relationships where I do tend to say what I'm thinking and say what I feel.
Like for myself, I'm very, undecisive, and I'm looking for somebody that's very decisive to making decisions for me. And I often find that in a Caucasian person.
Yeah, we actually got into tiff a couple weeks ago because remember you were upset with me because I didn't provide you with a definitive decision on something. It was something as stupid as where do we go to eat, and it was, I'm open-minded, I don't care, whatever you want to do. But that isn't what Jonathan wanted to hear. He wanted to be told, these are some ideas and this is what we're going to do. And because he doesn't want to think about it, he doesn't want to worry about it. Sometimes I'm comfortable with that, sometimes I'm not, because I'm not the kind of, I am a controlling kind of person, but I don't like to always be in that role. I don't want complete responsibility for everything, because if it goes bad, then whose fault is it?
That's why I don't like to make decisions.
I often express my emotions through my body or through my silences. And to me, those silences in that body language are as eloquent as direct verbal expression of anger or love. And so those kinds of nonverbal cues, that kind of body language and those silences get overlooked by some whites.
If my answer is yes, I would say no or I don't know. Just to give an option for the other person. I don't want to say no or yes, I have to do that. I like to be open with the other person.
I can ask if something's wrong maybe twice instead of 25 times. And after asking twice, I'll get a response. Whereas before, maybe I'd have to ask, like I said, at least 25 times, and still get like, oh no, everything's fine. Which I'm pretty persistent. I'll keep on digging until. But it can be frustrating.
It's not always just offered freely. Like, I'm feeling really rotten, or you did this or you did that, and that's what's got me upset. I sort of have to ask questions to get to the bottom of it. What is it? You're not saying a lot, or you're sitting at the other end of the sofa instead of on my end of the sofa, and that Grand Canyon between us is telling me that there's something not right there, It's usually pretty obvious, actually. But I have to usually ask.
I found that Asians tend to, in some ways, be more direct. I think in particular, asking if you have a boyfriend, find out if you're cheating on somebody. Sort of like to be like safe sex. That it seems like Asian guys bring up, making sure that things are safe right away and more directly than the Caucasian guys that I know.
If I'm dating another Asian, especially from Asia, there's certain things that I would not ask or would not have to ask. I just kind of know, how they're feeling or what they're thinking. Either just in body language or in the things that are said or not said. But with white guys, it's almost like you always have to tell them what you're thinking. You always have to ask them what they're thinking. Otherwise, they don't try to read your mind. They don't try to put things together and establish a pattern of, what could he be really thinking, even though he's saying something else. That's something I'm very good at. I'm good at reading that with other Asians. But with white people, it's like, why are you asking me these questions so matter of fact? Can't you just get it by the pattern we've established over the last few weeks or months? I mean, don't you have a clue?
Why do I want to do the film? Because I feel like this is a topic that I've struggled with for a very long time. I really do get a lot of bias from my friends. And I don't see the models out there in society of something that's very close to my heart. I want to see more of that. And if I can be a part of that, I want to be.
He made me.
No, he made me.
Why did you do it?
Oh, I just thought it would be a blast.
The title, I think, grabbed you.
Well, I just...
It should be rice and bagels for us, not potatoes. But.
I guess that if people in or are going to be in interracial relationships, that there are issues that I would have hoped that they'd ask themselves before getting into the relationship in the first place, and that there'd be a lot of communication in any relationship, whatever it may be, that for it to work.
I feel like I need to talk about my experiences in order to free myself from a lot of internal prejudice that I hold about white men and about Asian men.
Why am I doing that? For the money? No, I'm kidding. There's no money involved. It's a documentary, boy. There are different kinds of films that people make a whole lot more money in, but not this, could involve the outdoors, but.
I guess being in the closet for such a long time, I always thought that I wish I knew more stories about gay people, and I think everyone should share some of their stories. I think everyone has something to share in their experiences, and hopefully I'm having some positive effect other people can see, or I don't know. I think it's just, no one should ever be afraid to talk about themselves.
I wrestle with this idea all the time about self-esteem and, whether my attraction to white men is partially it's tied up with self-esteem. But, there's also the notion that, you like what you like. So that's always been a difficult thing for me to wrestle with, on either side of it. Because, like I said, you like what you like. You're attracted to what you're attracted to. And if you try to deconstruct it and split hairs so minutely, you'll drive yourself crazy, which I've done before. But I'm trying to be conscious of the big things.